Do you guys love talking about the scriptures? Do you love digging into the scriptures, studying God's word? I know that I do. It's one of my favorite things to do. And actually, it's interesting. In Judaism, studying the scriptures is actually, for centuries, has been considered the highest form of worship. I think that's interesting because for many Christians today, a lot of Christians today, they think of worship, they kind of compartmentalize worship as being only the section of the service that you have every week in which you sing to God, what we just had. And certainly I don't want to take away from that. That's such a powerful time to be able to come together corporately as God's people and to be able to enter into his presence and sing to him and worship him and exalt him. So don't want to take away from that, but worship is so much more than that. Worship is so much more than that. Worship is our life. As Mark was saying earlier, when he recited the Shema and he talked about the words of God, how they're to be on our heart. Are the words of God on your heart today? Do you teach them diligently to your children? Do you speak of them when you lie down at home, when you rise up, when you walk along the way? Do you bind them as a sign on your hand and as frontlets between your eyes? In other words, do you think about them? Do you do them? As Christians, we've kind of gotten away from this in our modern culture. We've kind of gotten away from the beauty and the value of really digging in deep and knowing God. Why do we study the Word? Why do we study the Bible, by the way? Is it just so that we know what to do during the day, during certain days? I mean, that's certainly part of it. We know that on the Sabbath we are to rest, we are to cease from working. But studying the Word is knowing God. Because the God of Israel, the God of the universe, the God who created all of us, who created everything that exists, he chose to reveal himself to us through the written word. So when we study the word, it's not just, to study history. It's to actually know God. It's to know his character. It's like reading a love letter from the King of the universe to us. Matt spoke earlier about how we are the bride. We are the bride of Messiah, and Messiah is coming back for a pure and spotless bride. What if we don't know anything about him? How do we know when he comes? How are we going to know when he comes if we don't study his word, if we don't know anything about who this Yeshua is? So I want to ask you guys, it's a rhetorical question. Well, it's a question for you to consider on your own. You don't have to answer out loud, obviously, but are God's words on your heart today? Really think about that. Are God's words on your heart? When you look around at America's Christians today, generally speaking, we've gotten away from theology. We've what's the point of theology? All we need to know is to love Jesus. It's like, okay, well, yeah, but how do you know how to do that? How do you really know what that means? And if you claim to love Jesus, Yeshua, how can you claim that if you don't know anything about him? It's like meeting a random stranger at a restaurant, walking up to them and sitting down and saying, I love you. They're going to think you're psycho. Yeshua said, if you love me, keep my commandments. The Shema says, if you love the Lord your God, his words will be on your heart.